activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 30 after the hour, and what better activist agenda could we start off with today than the introduction of the Dallas-Fort Worth NORML, the Texas Regional NORML Conference. And joining us here to talk all about it is the Executive Director of DFWNORML, Shaun McAlister. Hi, Shaun.
Howdy, Russ.
How are you doing?
Doing great, Russ. Welcome to Texas.
Oh, we're back in Texas. Only good things can happen. We're at Froggy's Beach Patrol here in Fort Worth, and this is kind of the opening, ceremony, reception. Who's all going to be here? What's happening?
Yeah, we've already got Keith and Eric from National here. We've got a couple of musical acts here. You are one of our favorite guests, as always, right?
Thank you.
We're going to have a bunch of music, including, of course, the FNAs.
Yay!
Off the event. We're going to have some artists creating some live art. You've seen some of it around already, but some of the artists haven't arrived yet. They're going to be creating art to the music, and then at the end of the night, we're going to raffle it all off to raise some money to help recoup some of the cost on this, the cost of this conference.
Now, the conference part, of course, is tomorrow in the morning and afternoon, and we got Saturday and Sunday. What are some of the things you're most proud of coming up in this conference?
Well, probably the biggest thing is bringing Judge Jim Gray in. I mean, for me, he was one of those people when I was watching him on television, I was like, wow, he makes me feel like I have my own voice, and I think I need to get involved with NORML, and now here I am, and bringing somebody like him in, it's kind of an epic moment for us as a chapter, because 3 years ago, we were struggling to throw a party to bring out 30 people. And now we're doing these bigger and bigger events, and we're really trying to lead other NORML chapters into the next level of their activism.
To what do you attribute a lot of this growth with DFWNORML? What's made it so popular lately?
You know, I feel like there's the crucial people element behind it, the people who work every day at it, but then we also just have a lot of variety within those people. You know, we've got all these different people that bring different skill sets to the table that allow us to do a lot of different things, so we're always reaching different groups of people instead of just the same old groups that, you know, your traditional marketing methods might reach. And so we've got people like Pete Marrero, who's just really opened us up sponsor-wise. We've got more sponsors for our events now than some of National's events, which is really, really amazing. And it's just because we've got somebody, an expert, who's great at reaching those people. And that's really what we've done here with DFWNORML is we've brought all these people that are passionate about marijuana reform and allowed them to do what they already do for a living just for us, and it's really, really benefiting us. Yeah, a lot of this is setting up a relationship with the right people. We were talking on the way in here about the owner of this venue. And then also, of course, you think DFWNORML, you think the Truth vehicles and the big SUV you've got out there. Tell us about your working relationship with some of these sponsors and how other chapters might develop that. Well, I'll tell you, where you really, really need to start is venues. You know, you got to find a venue that's going to really take good care of you, that's not going to try to pull one over on you like we did. You know, Froggy's, Chris is the owner, and he owns a couple of venues here in town, and he's been crucial in the growth of DFWNORML because without him, without a consistent place that we could come and hold our events privately, make some money at it, and bring people out and let them feel empowered, you know, we wouldn't be where we were today. And so the number one thing I'd say is establish a good relationship with someone who will let you bring your own bands in and play music and make some money for your chapter. And it's really going to start from there. And then you can start bringing in higher level sponsors to sponsor those events for you. You know, so you don't have to cover those costs. Like us, we covered a good half of the costs ourselves for this conference, but half that cost was covered by sponsors. Would have been impossible without those relationships. Yeah, that's what it takes. Teamwork. You can't do it by yourself, people. You got to get involved with other like-minded folks that are willing to, you know, put something on the line for this. So for yourself, putting together this conference, is this the first conference you've had to put together? This is. I actually got into event planning because of NORML. I wear a bunch of hats because of NORML, and over the past couple of years, we've done a lot of live music events. We've done marches and this and that, and we kind of felt like after attending the national conference last year that we could do that. And here we are now. We've done it, and I feel like this has probably been the biggest undertaking we've ever had, not just because of the money side of it, just because of all the coordinating of all the different people. We've got so many great speakers coming in from all over the place that we really wanted to make sure that this was going to be something that was valuable for people. So, yeah, I mean, this is the first time we've done anything like this. I really hope it's successful, and I feel like it's the beginning of the end of Prohibition in Texas. As a regional conference, have you got commitments from different chapters from states around this area? We haven't, but we have gotten commitments from, you know, most of the bigger state chapters here in Texas, even some of the brand new ones. Like, for example, we've got people from Benbrook NORML. They're not even official yet, but they're going to be with us. UTA NORML just became official. And so we've got a really good showing of our Texas chapters. And the main reason we actually called it a Texas Regional Normal Conference is not only because Texas is huge and, you know, it's its own region, but there's so many chapters here. We've kind of become our own region of activism. We're kind of doing it our own way here in Texas. And I felt like it was important to differentiate Texas from the rest of the country and how we were doing it.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of sectioned us off by calling it that. And plus, had I just called it the Texas Normal Conference, it would have seemed like Texas Normal in Austin was putting this on. And it really, I didn't want to create confusion for an already sometimes confused audience.
Okay. Now, having a conference here in Texas got to be a lot of different logistics than having one in San Francisco or Seattle or Denver. What are some of the, did you run into any problems trying to get this set up, or are businesses, hotels and such in Texas getting more amenable to this?
They're definitely easier to approach now than they were a couple of years ago. And I go back to my great example of Pete Marrero. You know, he's just great at bridging that gap for people, for a professional to realize that this is just a bunch of whatever I think it is. It's something else with professionals, doctors, yada, yada. And so, yeah, I mean, personally, I guess I just kind of feel like when Pete's involved, he's allowing us to do things that we've never been able to do just because he's great at talking to people. He's great at building those relationships. And really, that's what this is all about, is having good relationships that we can work together, and not only to put on a good event or something like that, but to work together to actually end prohibition.
So what's happened to that effect, ending prohibition in Texas? Can you give us a rundown of, like, maybe just the past year? Has there been any progress?
No,
roadblocks?
Unfortunately, it was. We thought we had some hopes for HB 184. It got out of its first committee and got some time on the floor, which is the first time in history in Texas.
A medical bill?
No, this was a decriminalization bill, small possession. We also had HB 594, which was, you know, an affirmative defense bill. That didn't get a whole lot of traction. DFWNORML, actually, in association with some attorneys and law professors, wrote our own Medical Marijuana Act for 2013 for Texas. But unfortunately, we couldn't find somebody willing to sponsor it.
And you guys have to have a sponsor.
We have to have a sponsor here, yeah. We don't have the right to referendum, unfortunately, which it's amazing to me how many Texans I tell and they're surprised about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it blows me away. It just makes me realize how big our job really is. It's not just educating people about cannabis, but it's also about educating them about how the political system really works if you're going to be serious about making a change.
Right. If you can't get a sponsor for legalization and you can't get things out of committee at a smaller level, it makes the job a lot harder. You mentioned the decrim bill. These have made more progress than previously, though, right? They did get out of committee. Most
definitely, and it's funny because these are the same bills that are always introduced every session in Texas. And this is the first time that they got a step further.
Yeah.
And so that is, you know, I'm pretty happy about that, but at the same time, I do feel like we kind of missed our opportunity this year in Texas. I feel like we could have gone further had we pushed harder. And it just, you know, it invigorates me for the next session because I feel like next time they're not going to be able to stop hearing about us.
Right. Now, are these representatives in the legislature accurately representing the wishes of Texas, or do you feel more Texans are on your side these days?
You know, I feel like overall Texans or even the legislators, they're willing to hear this topic out. They're not willing to just say, no, that's stupid anymore.
Okay.
The point, I guess, with everything is all these Texans, they're just afraid to come out and publicly support it because the laws in the South are kind of harsh. They're just afraid that by saying, well, hey, I think that we should have a rational discussion about marijuana policy, that the police are going to come and kick in their door for that. Or if they go and sit down their representative, suddenly they're going to lose their job because that representative, and it's just, that's not the way that it works.
Yeah.
And so really, if we as NORML can empower more Texans to just say, hey, I'm not afraid about this anymore, I'm going to talk to not just my local representatives, but my family and my doctor and everyone else that I can about this, the next time it comes up for a vote, man, I feel like we're going to have some serious progress in Texas.
So what is it that people are afraid of? Give us an idea of some of the penalties involved for possession or cultivation. Any ideas?
Well, my favorite, I think, is the fact that Texas is one of those states that differentiates the concentrates so greatly. Yeah. So, you know, you can have a couple of ounces up to 4 ounces and it's a misdemeanor, but you have one of those, for example, Russ.
And that's
you have one of those and that's a felony no matter how much. and it's ridiculous. And grinders too, you know, as soon as you extract that pollen, suddenly you're a felon. You're a hash manufacturer here in Texas. And it just, when you tell people that and their eyes bug out, they're like, whoa, we really need to change these laws, don't we?
Double felon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at all that residue. Yeah, you're going away for a long time.
I'm going away. Texas prison. Well, maybe I can make some friends. They'll see me through. We're sitting here with Shaun McAlister from DFWNORML. He's executive director. And we're putting together the Texas Regional Normal Conference, the first one, and this is kind of going along a trend. There was just a Mid-Atlantic States Regional Conference. I was out at the Southern Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe they're doing one in Missouri this year. Is this something you'd like to continue to do? Keep having regional Texas conference?
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully we start seeing even more of these pop up. I'd like to see them in every state, but it's going to start with having more chapters, more active chapters of either normal or anything else in those states on the ground, putting these types of things together.
Yeah, absolutely. And Texas is ripe for change here. I know people get kind of discouraged, and they may think, oh, it'll never change here, it'll never change here. What do you see as being the what can you give people in Texas to give them hope?
Well, one thing that I just found out after I discovered that Rob Campia from Marijuana Policy Project was in fact going to be speaking at our event, I found out that he has recently purchased property here in Austin.
Oh, really?
So the simple fact that Rob Campia is moving to Texas means to me that some MPP resources are about to start coming to Texas.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's been a game changer all over the country as it is. And so MPP is taking notice of what we're doing here in Texas, and they're shifting resources. And I think that once more organizations see that happening, they're going to do it as well. And suddenly you're going to hear this movement in Texas getting louder and bigger, and we're going to be doing more things like this conference. My goal is not to continue to throw these conferences. I want to throw big, gigantic protests. We did our global marijuana march recently, and it had a great turnout, but I wanted to see 1,000 people in the street, not 500. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we're going with all of this, is to get people active, not just with NORML, not just with drug policy reform, but just in talking about making a change and really trying to be positive representatives of this movement, even if they aren't going to go out and join NORML tomorrow.
Right. How much of this in Texas, how much of the politics in Texas around marijuana also gets intertwined with the politics of immigration? Is there a lot of that overlap?
I feel like there probably is, but since I'm not involved in those discussions, I really couldn't speak too much how involved that is. But I do feel like we're going to come to a point where we're going to have to look right across the border and say, this is going to start spilling over here. Maybe it hasn't yet, but as this prohibition continues to tighten around the state of Texas, violence is going to really start to spill over the border, and we're going to start to see, the kind old white folks getting hurt from this prohibition. And once that happens, I feel like the people are going to say enough's enough of this.
Yeah, it's happening. We're starting to see it. I just covered a show today. I covered a story today from the Dallas Cowboys where that Josh, I forget his last name, charged with vehicular manslaughter, twice the BAC. Now he's failed a pot test.
And they're going to blame it all on the weed all of a sudden.
But so this is not, this is not something that's unheard of here in Texas. I mean, God, Willie Nelson throws a party every year. Texas loves Willie Nelson. Speaking of that, I'm going on tour with the FNAs. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit, your relationship with this band, the FNAs.
Well, the FNAs, they played one of the first DFWNORML events that I went to a couple of years ago, and they've really just kind of stuck around. They've probably played, at this point, maybe a dozen shows for us for free, and they're just really talented, passionate guys, and we kind of felt like they were awesome representatives of the movement because, they're a 6-piece band, only half of them smoke.
Oh.
And yet, all of them are friendly to the cause. And
great.
They continue to just volunteer their time and talents, and I've been able to see them develop over the past couple of years as a band, not just as a really talented band, but a passionate one at that. And over the last couple of years, we kind of decided that we wanted to do something on a national level, and it was going to take an amazingly talented artist, and we just so happened to know these FNAs. And after speaking with them about it, we kind of decided that we felt like we could pull this off. We could go around the country and say, this is our little brand of DFWNORML's activism all around the country. Add some amazing music to it, add an amazing speaker like yourself to the mix, and suddenly we've got just a wonderful tour all over the country where people are going to just have a great time and really going to feel empowered.
It's going to be great. Let's tell you more about it. Shaun McAlister from DFWNORML, thanks for joining us. When we come back, we're going to show you some videos from Brian the Red and the Brave Michaela family, so stick around.
Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the